Hello everyone, my name's Pete and I don't like MMOs, and that's exactly why I'm playing so many. There's not a solid reasoning for me to say I don't like them, and I'm on a quest to discover how I really feel about them. If that's something that interests you, you can subscribe to follow along, and if you've got any ideas for MMOs to try, then don't be afraid and put them in the comments. All suggestions go on the list. Albion Online is a game I've certainly been aware of for a while. It had a rather aggressive advert campaign on YouTube at one time, and it immediately rang alarm bells in my head as a plotless grind with monetization to speed the grind. That's me being cynical of anything that says tell your own story or classless system, and this one proudly has both. But let's give it a chance. The game loads into a fairly short intro cutscene that kind of promises everything and nothing at the same time. A newly discovered land that I'll be going to with little or no pre-existing occupation hints towards the lack of a plot, and that is okay. I don't think it necessarily needs a story as long as the game has some direction for new players to at least get started in the sandbox. Account creation is nice and painless, and then we're placed into character creation. This is handled mostly through presets and there's not a great deal of choice to be had. I can be a broad-shouldered male or a broad-shouldered female. I've seen worse creation experiences, and it's at least simple to use and doesn't take too much of your time. I decide to be a hulking older gentleman with a thunderous beard, and I'm pleased that nobody has had the audacity to take my rather unique username. There's also a button at the bottom to skip the tutorial, and that's nice because I love accessibility that caters for old and new players. I get transported to the game world, and I'm pleased to see that the tried and tested shipwrecked start for an MMO is used here. I immediately receive a pop-up telling me I have unclaimed rewards already. I open the message and I'm given items that I don't understand that do things that currently mean nothing to me. Apparently, using these items makes my equipped gear gain combat fame. I don't know what this means, and I don't think I have any gear to use it on. Maybe this could have waited a bit before being awarded. The tutorial message is blocking the close button for the rewards page too, but luckily pressing escape closes all active windows, allowing me to proceed as intended. Using left or right click I move my character, and the keyboard is reserved for abilities. Q, W, E, R, A, D, F, 1 and 2 are all assigned in place of the usual number keys as a hotbar. This is similar to something like Dota 2 or League of Legends, and honestly I'm fine with it. My first task is to walk into a circle and stay there for 2 seconds. The 2 seconds part of this is a bit unusual, but I'll do as I'm told. Then I proceed to a broken tower, which is funny since this land is supposed to be unoccupied, and find a wounded crafter who wants to better assess where we've washed up. He gives me a list of objectives to find out more about where I've landed. I climb the tower for a better view and spot the ship I arrived on and a group of bandits blocking the bridge ahead. I notice here that the music is lovely and I really quite like the visual style so far. There's something charming about the simple aesthetic. On the way down the tower, I'm told to use a speed spell which is actually tied to my boots. Then I report my findings to the crafter who tells me it's time to prepare for a fight. He gives me another list of objectives which are focused on gathering materials for crafting. I need to collect wood and stone and take it to the smith behind him to make myself a sword. I'm starting to get a distinct old school RuneScape flavour here. As a reward for making my sword I receive a shield, and when equipping them I get to choose an ability. My sword has a choice of a single target damage boost or an AoE sweep attack. Knowing that I'm going up against 4 bandits, I opt for the sweep. Now I'm off to experience combat. It's nothing flashy. Clicking on an enemy will begin auto-attacking, and I use my abilities off cooldown to boost damage. The sweep is a significant damage boost, as well as hitting multiple targets, and I make short work of the heretics as they're called. After this I'm introduced to the destiny board, which is the skill tree. It's explained to me that there are 3 types of fame to gain, fame being an equivalent to experience points. The 3 types of fame are combat, gathering and crafting. Almost every action I can take awards fame, from killing enemies to gathering wood and crafting shoes. From the look of it, it seems like you can train any and all of these skills at the same time. It would make sense to me to match up your gathering and crafting skills to match your preferred combat skills, so that you can keep on top of making yourself the relevant gear. I scroll around a bit and there are so many options as things progress. It's a little bit overwhelming to look at now, so I'll come back to that later. I move on to the main tutorial hub area and it's busy. Lots of players are darting back and forth and a very active chat is happening. I get a pop-up that tells me this tutorial area is split into instances and I can use this place to meet up with friends to play with, which is a nice timely reminder that I have no friends. Instead I speak to the captain situated in the centre of the camp. She remembers me from the ship and informs me that we haven't yet reached Albion. We'll be getting underway as soon as the ship's repaired, but first I'm pointed to the marketplace to buy a mount. The marketplace is filled with items gathered or crafted by players, and this is the shop system. There is little to no equipment in existence outside of what's been produced by players. Fortunately, there's a very active player base, and items for new players are abundant. After buying a mount, which I assume wasn't crafted by a player, making it one of the exceptions, I'm sent to gather more resources so that I can craft myself some tools. I check in with the toolmaker to see what's required, and I set about battling other players for the regenerating resource nodes. They regenerate quickly, but with so many people trying to do the same thing at once, this takes a bit longer than it should. After making myself an axe and a pickaxe, I'm awarded a skinning knife and a sickle, and sent further afield to collect more resources. I need to find hide and birch logs. I'm then given a brief explanation of the map, which has some useful information, including the player population of the current area. It's also explained that Albion consists of 5 biomes: swamp, forest, steppe, highland and mountain. These biomes dictate the available resources, and I'm sure that will be useful later. I'm shown how to recognise the trees that I need to cut down, and I spend the next few minutes cutting them down and hunting and skinning foxes for hides. Gathering is easy and relaxing, and I'm having a good time doing it. I return to camp and I'm sent back out to another zone to gather cotton and copper ore. I'm really enjoying these gathering mechanics. It's almost as satisfying as RuneScape, but I'll try not to get ahead of myself. I return to camp again and I'm told to use the various workstations to refine the resources I've gathered into better crafting materials. Then I learn about learning points, which are a resource used to skip some of the grind in leveling up skills. As a free member, I can earn learning points by completing daily challenges, but as a premium member, I'll be awarded a decent amount of them for no extra effort. Honestly, this looks like a pay to not play setup, or at least tells me that the game is made very grindy on purpose and you're provided with a purchasable solution. But again, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. I'm then sent out to find more heretics and improve my combat skill, and retrieve a map from the heretic camp. The combat is fine, it's nothing flashy, at least not yet, and the cooldowns seem fair. Some enemies have telegraphed attacks that I can avoid or interrupt, which encourages me to at least think about when to use my abilities rather than just spam the hotkey. I gain myself a point in the combat skill, and this blows my options open for combat progression. Then I'm told that I am what I wear. This is Albion's classless system, wherein your abilities change based on what you use. Bows and medium armor make you a hunter, heavy armor and weapons make you a warrior, and clothes and staves make you a wizard. You can also mix and match your gear for varying bonuses. All this is well and good, but I don't feel like it's actually a classless system, it's just one where you're not locked into your choice. I'll explain more on why I feel that later. My next objective is to either buy or craft the next tier of equipment. I can fight heretics and gather silver to spend at the marketplace, or I can gather, refine and craft. I know which one sounds more fun to me, and yes, I spent way too long collecting way too many resources. I got overloaded and my movement speed was reduced. The capacity limit is quite generous, and you need to exceed 800% of your weight limit before you stop moving entirely. Your weight limit can then be improved with certain boots, mounts and abilities. After gathering things and refining them into stuff so I can craft them into more things, I make the decision to go for hunter gear, because why not? As I equip every item, I gain one or more abilities tied to it, and in some cases I'm offered a choice of spells. Usually it's the difference between offensive and defensive. Dressed in my new armour and now handling a bow, I'm almost ready for what comes next, but first I want to at least store or sell the excess materials I'm carrying. I don't see any storage NPCs, and the only shop available is the marketplace. I have to put my things up for sale and wait until someone decides to buy it, meaning there's no quick way to turn low-level resources into silver, since there are no standard NPC vendors. It's sort of like the RuneScape Grand Exchange, but as the only option. Because I don't see the point in selling any of this stuff, I do this, which I'm sure will trigger any veteran players. I am, however, fascinated by the prospect of a fully player-driven economy. Supply and demand on Albion is real. Now I'm given a small quest to round off the tutorial. I need to head to the heretic camp and kill a few of them and cause some general chaos. While there's confusion in the camp, I'll meet Captain Tyr and board the ship to Albion. This is exactly what I did, and it was little more than a chance to use my new combat gear, which I appreciated and enjoyed. At the end of this, I meet with the captain and I'm told I can choose where in Albion I want to land. The choice is basically between the available biomes, and I choose mountains for no reason in particular, and without further delay, I'm on the mainland. The first thing I'm encouraged to do here is find a guild. I understand this, as a group of friendly players would offer me an advantage, but at the same time, social interaction? Nah. Maybe later. Then I'm given a seemingly generous gift of 3 days of premium time. This is a nice try before you buy concept, but I can't help but think it's designed to speed me through the already fast early stages to make the grind feel worse when it ends, encouraging me to buy more premium. I can't help it, I'm cynical. Apparently I can farm premium time and pay with silver, but I'm just going to assume that it's really expensive and probably not worth the time investment. There's a small string of quests available here in camp. I'm told on several occasions that these are just to get me started, and the main point of the game is that it's a sandbox, and that's fine. I won't expect a compelling narrative. For now, the tasks are learning about the various camp amenities and their functions. The marketplace is packed with players, and the various crafting points have a steady stream of visitors going about the business, and it's nice to play a fully populated MMO again. I know I don't want to talk to anyone, but I like at least seeing players about the place. And here I discover the bank system. Thank goodness, a place to dump my crap. But there's a catch. Banks are not connected. That means if you store something here, you can only access it from here. This seems rather inconvenient when I consider that a good portion of this game is going to involve carrying large batches of materials to grind crafting experience. It may be balanced by something later, but my initial reaction to this is largely negative. Nevertheless, I store my excess junk and continue on. I'm now learning about expeditions. These are basically short combat instances that offer a small reward for completion. They're accessed by these shiny portals, and the difficulty scales with your combat tier and the number of players in your party. During my expedition, I learn about some of the telegraphed attacks from enemies and how important it is not to engage too many enemies as a light armoured archer. I also get more experience in using my abilities to interrupt the abilities of enemies. This was a nice little outing, and it provided a good little challenge for my tiny amount of game knowledge. After this, I'm sent to speak with a crafter who informs me that the best decision is to pick 1 or 2 gathering skills and focus on them rather than do everything at once. This feels counterintuitive to the so-called classless system, and is part of why I don't think it really is a classless system at all. What it means to me is that you're just not locked into your choice early on. This exists in other games too, but the classes are still there. Now, I'm going to make some assumptions here, and I'm open to being corrected, but I feel like getting to the max levels in my bow and light armor skill trees will take a very long time. And whilst that doesn't exclude me from using, say, wizard class items, getting to the point where I'm just as effective in both will take double that length of time. Now, Albion Online has made no secret of its identity as a sandbox skill grinder so far, and that's fine. But, and I'm going to make one of those assumptions here, it feels like it would take a lot longer to make a character competent in 2 classes than it would to level up 2 separate characters in something like Final Fantasy XIV. Again, these are assumptions and based purely off what I can see so far. With regards to a classless system, this means that you're just further locking in your choice as you spend more time invested into leveling certain skills, because your other skills fall behind and become relatively useless until you get around to sinking all that time in once again. But enough about that. The premium time I was given grants me bonus resources and fame for each action. That includes silver dropped from enemies and even hides gathered from creatures. There's also a resource exclusive to premium members called Focus. This is gained passively while premium time is active, and is spent when refining or crafting. Focus returns some of your invested materials, meaning you can craft more per unit for a boost in skill gain. The adverts for premium here are starting to feel just a little bit pushy, so I take a look at the prices. It's not crazy expensive, but it still feels like you're just paying for a shortcut through a purposefully designed grind. I'll play some more when the free time runs out to confirm the suspicion that it will be considerably less fun. The price for 7 days premium isn't too bad, and it's a decent option if you want to spend a week powering some levels in a particular skill. Unlocking the 3rd tier on the Destiny tree blows things wide open, enabling up to as many as 9 branches to be followed sometimes. It must take many years to get everything done on this, but I gather it's about the journey and not the destination. This confirms what I was told, however, that focusing on one thing at a time really is the best option, which kind of confirms what I was saying about it not being really classless. The choice just happens a bit differently, and the path to being competent in more than one class is the same as leveling up 2 characters elsewhere. There's functionally very little difference aside from changing gear instead of logging into another character. Now I need tier 3 equipment before I can tackle the next set of objectives, and to do that I need to be able to craft tier 3 stuff. So I set about gathering, refining and crafting, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I had a good time doing so. I spent more time than I would have liked looking for something that provided thin hides, but this is because I refuse to Google things when I'm learning for these videos. Well, mostly. As it happens, my old friend the giant frog came to the rescue. This just pushed my unintentional comparison to old school RuneScape, but that's not a bad thing because RuneScape is great. I had to Google how to use this scroll to unlock a randomized dungeon because for some reason I missed the massive use button at the top. When I eventually got there, I faced a tough boss who killed me. I got up, had a rethink of the bonuses my gear provided me, actually paid attention to his moveset, and then almost died again. I just about defeated him, which told me I'm going to need to grind everything to get better, and I'm not put off by this at all. This is essentially going to be the gameplay loop. Continuous gathering and crafting to get better equipment, to grind combat better until I need better gear again. This game has been honest about this from the start, and so far, everything has been easy to do and in most cases rather relaxing. The cynical side of me still thinks that the whole game is purpose built to sell premium time, but that remains to be seen. For now, this is really all I have to say about Albion Online. If you're interested in me saying more words into your face, then you can check out my other videos or subscribe for future ones. And if there's something in particular you'd like my first impressions on, then put it in the comments and make my list infinitely long. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.